the screens. We're already, thank you, Edgar. We're already on 2 screens. This is wonderful. So nice to see all of these boxes filling up as we get people in the room. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. This is really terrific. We're going to have a good session today. While we're waiting to get started, if you want to let us know where you're coming from, what JCC you are at, you can also tell us about the weather if you'd like. We're going to get started in just a few moments. We have a few more people registering and connecting. I see all those little bubbly things across the screen, so this is very nice. It's okay if you want to eat your lunch. We don't mind. We know it's lunchtime certain parts of the country. Terrific. All right, well, I'm going to kick us off. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Welcome to JCC Association's Peer Community Convening. I'm Joy Brand Richardson, and I'm Vice President of Professional Development and Training at the JCC Association, which is housed in New York City. The main offices are there. I use the pronouns she and her, and I have shoulder-length brown hair and glasses. Today I'm wearing a striped top and a fleece vest because it's a little chilly here in my Delaware office. I'm joined by Edgar Diaz from JCC Association, who is part of the development team, and he's going to be helping us with tech support. And you may see some of the other JCC Association staff joining the session as well. So gathering exemplary JCC professionals together from across the continent is really very important to us. And these peer community convenings are our initiative to achieve this goal. And we're happy to see you all here. Please tell your colleagues that we have these peer communities. There's over 13 of them. So hopefully your colleagues are attending theirs that are as well. We always like to start our convenings with some guiding principles. We understand there may be people who are new to their role or those who have many years of experience, and each of us brings wisdom to the conversations. There may be concepts or information that feels new or something that feels commonplace, but each of us brings important knowledge, and we ask everyone to approach each other with respect, to define terms and concepts, and also ask for clarity. If somebody is talking about something and you're not quite sure what they're talking about, please ask questions. I'd like to introduce you to Seth and Rick. They are the co-chairs of this peer community. I see the wave. Rick is the Director of Development at the Mayerson JCC in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Seth is the Chief Development Officer at the Oshman Family JCC in Palo Alto, California. Thanks so much to both of them for being volunteer co-chairs for all of you. They're being really great in planning these meetings, and future meetings will be announced in the briefs and on the JCC Resource Center. So at this time, I'd like to invite Seth to unmute and start the program.
Thanks, Joy. Nice to be here with all of you today. Just want to start off by saying if you are pleased with what you're getting from us today, you can send those compliments to me, and if you have any complaints, just send those right over to Rick. So we're happy to have you, and I'll just give you a quick overview of our agenda, and then we'll turn it over to our special guest, Heidi Dormady. So we'll do some just some introductions here, just a welcome. Heidi's going to tell us about working with volunteers committees. We got about 20 to 30 minutes with Heidi, some presentation and some time for Q&A. Then we'll go into some breakout rooms, which is pretty typical for this group, and do some oys and joys. It's just an opportunity really for me to have some time with a smaller group of folks. And then we'll return to the main room and wrap it up. So we'll ask you, I'll just say it now so I don't forget, we'll ask you in the breakout rooms to just assign a recorder for any key takeaways, anything interesting we're sharing with the group. And that's it. Again, we're really grateful for your feedback, and we want these sessions to be useful. So if you have anything you'd like to contribute, if you'd like to volunteer to add content to a future session, please do not hesitate to be in touch. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Queen of Development. I think it's formerly the Senior Director of Development at the Boulder JCC, Heidi Dormany. She's been there for 14 years. 14 years, runs things. Don't let anybody kid you about that. She definitely runs things. And we're really happy to have you, Heidi. So take it away.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen, and I am also going to say that I think most of my team is on the call, as well as possibly Jonathan Lev, our executive director. So if you heard Seth say that, it's not true. He runs everything, and I just kind of sit around and eat bonbons most of the day. So I would just say to my team, and Jonathan, if I miss something, please feel free to jump in. So today I'm going to talk about engaging effective development committees, because in the 14 and a half years I've been here, we've gone through a lot of iterations. I'm going to just start really quickly running through sort of the mission vision of the Boulder JCC, which is that we're rooted in culture and a place where people in Boulder County can feel valued and connected and celebrated. And this is really how we address this is how we approach all of our fundraising efforts. And that kind of ties into our committees. Further, I'm not going to read this to you, but top of the list is that we're donor centric. We would never go to a donor and say, hey, we want you to support this. We really want them to drive where their philanthropy is going. One of the biggest things we do, and this also ties into the committee, is we call every single donor, whether they give $5 or $5,000 or $500,000 within 24 hours. Every single donor gets a call, and we've had incredible success with that. And again, that will tie into the committee. So that's why I just wanted to point that out. The other thing that took a lot of years, I was the only person here for many years, and then we'd have like a part-time person helping me, is that we really built a team. And before that, the committee was more of they did more development work, and it's been really nice to convert the use of a committee to a much more targeted role of thought partners and really supporting our team, but not having to do the asking, because that never went great. Again, just a little historical content on the Boulder JCC. We are really different than most JCCs in that we don't have fitness. So we do have to raise about 50% of our operating budget. In 2011, we were a $1 million organization. Last year, we were a $7 million organization. This year, we've got an over $8 million budget. So a lot of growth in the last decade. We went from 1.5, like this says 1.5 full-time people on the development team to 5 full-time development staff members, and a committee of about 5 to 7. So a little historical content. I joined in 2010 when the capital campaign to build the building we're in started, and we had hired an administrator. And in 2014, that was the first time that a development committee existed, unless something was here before that I don't know about. And that development committee really was focused on the capital campaign. And then we also had all these different groups like helping with different things. So there was like the capital campaign committee, and then we're like, oh, we need to raise annual funds. So we had people working on that. So in 2015, we consolidated all of these committees into what we called the strategic development group. And it was a really effective group in supporting development. So they were doing what I think we traditionally think of these development committees doing, which is, identifying donors, helping with donor meetings, potentially even doing asks. And they were doing more of that in those days. So that really worked then. And this was sort of what our initial thoughts were when we created it, was that they were going to help us identify donors. They were going to make those introductions, and that they were going to be asking for money. That really was our vision. What we realized is that it really wasn't the best way to utilize a volunteer committee. Because most of them were not really comfortable asking for money. And as the professionals here, we we are really comfortable doing that. So we thought, why are we using them in a way that they don't want to be used and isn't maybe the best use of our time or theirs? So what we did is we kind of transitioned it. So it kind of has a couple different, our committee, now it's called the Development Committee, has a couple different areas where we focus our attention. The first is it is an amazing engagement opportunity for those members that serve on that committee. And I know I said it's only 5 or 7, but seeing the level of engagement that those people have evolved to after getting onto this committee has been really pretty amazing, both in their philanthropy, but also in their engagement. They're acting as ambassadors for the organization. They're getting their friends and acquaintances to come to programs, come to events. So really that engagement tool is key. The other really great piece with this committee is they have become great thought partners for us. And I'll give you an example. We used to do a very traditional gala where we had honorees and videos of the honorees and tables and auctions. And over the years, we just kept trying to figure out how to evolve that. And so before COVID, we started an evolution. COVID came, we didn't do an event for 2 years. And then we realized, again, with a lot of support from this committee, like, wouldn't it be amazing if we raised all of the money beforehand and then just had a really fun party? Thank you to Seth Leslie, because I actually went to the Palo Alto's annual and that was really inspirational. So I brought back information from that, and then pulling in the committee's strategic thinking about how we could potentially do the fundraising ahead of time. We introduced a 36-hour fundraising drive. And for the last 2 years, we've raised all of our money ahead of the event. And then the event has just really been, I mean, certainly for my team, it's a way more fun event because we don't have to be stressed that we're not going to get those paddles up in the room. But it also, I think, really empowered the committee to feel like they helped establish a new model that I don't know how many other people are doing. And we've shared it with a lot of folks. And I think Denver is actually looking at doing something similar this year. So that really comes out of the committee, that thought partner piece of it. We don't ask them to make asks, with the exception that at year end, we do a mailing to about 4,000 households, sorry. And we personalize over 1,000 of those. So everyone gets the same mailing, and then there's a personal handwritten note in over 1,000. And we do ask the development committee members to take whatever number they feel comfortable. So it's really anywhere between 10 and 50, depending on the member and their time. And some of them really like to pick people that they know to write to. Some of them don't want to pick people they know and they want to just write to strangers. So we really let them kind of guide that one piece of, I guess, it is asking, but it really, it's not a face-to-face ask. It's a, will you join me letter? And then the other piece that has been huge and ties back to their engagement is, like I said, our team makes phone calls to every single donor, no matter how big the gift is. And at critical times of the year, whether it's Colorado Gives Day or Giving Tuesday or year end, this year last year in November, we had a really horrible tragedy in our community. One of our little children died, and another family and the parents set up this endowment fund pretty much right away, maybe 36 hours. And it kind of went viral. This family was very connected in many different communities. And we got over 300 gifts in a 2-week period at year end when we were getting all of our regular gifts. So the development committee jumped in and made phone calls to a lot of those families because the team didn't have the bandwidth to do that. And I had committee members in my office crying and saying how meaningful it was for them to get to make those calls, because people really appreciated it. And we even then would hear, like, I would hear from the parents multiple times, like, oh my gosh, this friend called from Pittsburgh and said they got a call from someone from the JCC and they couldn't believe it because they just gave $25 or something. So really engaging the committee in that the most wonderful part of our job, which is thanking people for their support, has also been a really valuable way to use them. So that is it. That's my presentation. I'd love to open it up to questions because I'm sure I missed something. And then I'd also love to say to my team, if I missed anything, please unmute yourselves and speak now.
Do you have, hi, my name is Jess. I'm up in Canada,
Hi,
in Vancouver. And I'm just wondering, do you have like a vetting process or an application process for your committee members? Because I tend to find committee members are lovely and not super useful all the time.
That's a great question. And I would say we've certainly gone through some of those kind of members. And almost exclusively our committee members have been board members that choose to sit on the development committee. So there's already that commitment and there's been that vetting of the interest in supporting the organization. That said, we actually just, I think in January, the board changed the bylaws so that we can take people onto the committee that are not board members. And we have one person that's in the process. And we are going through a lot with them to make sure, like going over, we have a whole job description that our chair, the chair of the committee created that talks about everything that they have to be willing to do. And so yes and no. I mean, again, the vetting is that they're board members, so they are committed. And I don't hope none of them are on this call. Some are way better than others. I should say some are way more involved, like some are way more engaged. Some are like to help us with, but they tend to kind of self-select. Like one of the committee members loves helping us with the policy stuff and redoing our gift agreements and helping us with those kind of things. One of them is the one that every time we need someone to make calls, she's like, I'll make 50 calls. So I think really meeting them where they are has been probably the most successful piece.
Yeah. I think we struggle with like accountability because it's a committee. I can't vote them out. I can't vote them in. They're there because they're volunteering, but like it's unclear the deliverables it's clear the deliverables you put out, but unclear what you're always going to get back.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I would be lying if I said we hadn't experienced that exact same thing.
Yeah.
And, but I think again, meeting them where they are. So if you've got the one committee member that's willing to do one thing, we're happy to take that one thing and it is that engagement with that. Like, so it's kind of that two piece, right? They feel really good that they're doing that one thing. And so maybe they're giving more, maybe they're telling 10 friends to come to something, which is also valuable.
Okay. Thank you.
I see, this is Betty from Vancouver, same office as Jess. In the chat, they asked if you could share the job description. I'm curious too, is that something you could do?
I'm just making a note because I forget everything. I absolutely can. As soon as I'm done talking, I will find it and I'll either put it in the chat or get it to Joy to send out to people.
Thank you.
Of course.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Michelle. I'm with the Mid-Island YJCC on Long Island. How are you? Hi, everyone. Hello. So I have always been told that the specific development committee shouldn't have anything to do with events, and our event committees should actually be separate. So I'm struggling with with your presentation, which I thought was great, which is how I always thought it should be, how to separate the development committee being just specifically focusing on major gifts and other campaigns, but not events. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and like I said, they don't really focus, and they don't really focus on any giving level. They really, like I said, with the thank you calls, with the letters at year end to all levels of donors. to be honest, we've kind of moved away from the model of events committees because when you talk about committee members that end up like those committees ended up taking so much work that we kind of realized that using the development committee to help with ideas was great, but having anyone help with execution wasn't always the best model because our team could just get it done. It was more efficient. Now we lose out on the opportunity of engaging another committee, which it was a very conscious decision, right? Like that's another 10 people that we don't engage now. So we always are looking at ways we do it. We just actually 3 years ago started doing an early childhood center, just an ECC parent event. Used a committee for that, and it has I see Kate, who's on my team, it has come with challenges. It's a lot of work to manage them. So using this committee has been really effective in terms of sort of bigger picture thinking, but they're not in the weeds doing, helping with decor or anything like that.
Got it.
So
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Did that answer your question or?
It does. Yes. Thank you.
Hey Heidi, Natalie have been in touch recently. Hi, good to see you. Actually, I have a question about something on your first slide. So you mentioned that you all call all of your donors within 24 hours. How does that work? Do y'all have just like time blocked off every day to make calls, or how do you actually manage that?
Is a great question. So we have again, we are very fortunate that we have a really well-staffed team. I've talked to other JCCs that don't have as many people in the development team, and we've brainstormed ideas for having board members or committee members make those calls. But our process is pretty streamlined. So our a gift comes in, our development coordinator puts it into Asana, which is, a task management software that we use, and assigns it to one of our development people. So me or one of the other 3 development people that make phone calls. Depending, if it's someone who's under management, obviously assign it to them. If it's a new person, it kind of gets randomly assigned. And we just make the calls. There's a couple times of year where that gets really, that it's hard to do those calls in 24 hours. But most, basically that's around our annual event, which is now in April, and year end. But it's not like we're, other than those 2 time periods, we're making a couple calls a week. It's not like.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's why I'm saying that's where this committee has been so helpful, is those couple times a year when we do that 36-hour drive that I was talking about. We got, I think, 165, 200, I don't even remember, 400 gifts. I should know these numbers.
Wow.
400 gifts in the course of a 36-hour period. We can't make 400 calls and we're making calls to ask people to give. So that's a time when we really use the committee. Our team's making the calls, asking people to give, and then the committee is available to make those thank you calls, which it's worked really well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I see someone, Molly.
Yeah, hi. This is Molly Breger from Camp Swanga, JCCA camp in Northern California.
Nice.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit more about some of the nitty-gritty logistics of that? Do your committee members come into the office and all do thank you calls together? Is it a fun community building event? Do you send out lists and everybody makes calls on their own? How does that work?
Great question. We've done both. So we have set up like our boardroom for calls, and they'll come with their cell phones and we just give them lists. Other times we'll create a Google, because it sounds like you want the details. So I'm going to give you the details. We'll create a Google sheet that is shared with everyone, and we'll put in the information. So it'll have, it'll say Joy Brand Richardson, here's her phone number. And, she made a gift of $50, and we'll assign it, and it'll say assigned to Beth. So, and then a checkbox that Beth did it, and then a place for notes so that Beth can put in, talk to Joy, she gave because she loves our music programming and comes to the JCC all the time, or left a voice message, or so that we can then put that information back into Salesforce and be keeping track of who made the calls. We do a lot of data analytics where we actually track all the people that the committee writes to at year end and what the return is on those handwritten ones, and it's really high. Like I should have looked before I talked to you. I want to say it's as high, if not higher than the team's letters, because they're such a peer-to-peer ask. And that is really compelling for people. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
We do meet, I guess I didn't say that. The committee meets you asked about community building. The committee meets in person every 6 to 8 weeks, kind of depending on the time of year. We were doing every month and realized that that was a little too much.
Hi, excuse me, this is Emily at the Living JCC. Do you roll people on the committee and roll them off, or is your committee kind of solid and as somebody's ready to leave, you start looking for a replacement?
It's been pretty organic in that, the committee that was really, really involved when the STG, which was that really engaged committee, slowly transitioned. Someone who was on that in 2014 just left the committee 2 years ago. So she was on it for almost 10 years. It's kind of, it's not like this is the committee now, and then we get rid of those 5 to 7 people and we bring in 5 to 7 new ones. It's kind of rotates as people join the board, and if this is the area of interest for them. We have different board committees, and every board member needs to serve on one, and so we get ones that are interested in this area. So it's nice because there's the continuity. Someone, it's not like everyone leaves and we have to start over. There's a really nice continuity with that. Anything else?
I'll ask a question, Heidi. I guess a couple parts. First, do you have a sense of the kind of ideal size of the committee? And then my second question is, I think you've given a lot of ideas about sort of strategic and tactical uses. And if you could just maybe sort of pick your top 2 or 3, like best bang for your buck as far as trying to make the best use of this group.
Size. That's a great question. We've never had more than 5 to 7. And again, that's somewhat tied to the fact that it's always been we've only allowed board members to sit on it. It will be interesting now that there's been a little shift and we could potentially bring more people on. But I feel like 5 to 7 is kind of a nice number because it's manageable, and certainly in the thought partner side, like we certainly want the ideas, but I think with 10 people, we would get a lot of conflicting ideas and we'd have to figure out which way to go. In terms of bang for your buck, I mean, no question, the phone calls and the letters, I think, are really, they're a great use of their time. I think they feel like it's a really valuable thing for them to be doing. They're seeing a reward from it, so it encourages them to want to stay engaged. The thought partner piece is also really important, but I would say if I had to pick one, it would be the calls.
I have another quick question. Do you have them? Sorry, it's Michelle from Long Island, New York. Sorry, I know there's lots of faces here. Do you have them help you set goals, fundraising goals?
Not really. Yeah, I mean that's pretty set with our team and our executive director and finance. So they haven't traditionally done that. Not to say that they couldn't. In terms of the one thing I would say is they do certainly help us set goals in terms of like the event. We'll talk about how many people we want to get at it, and they'll help us achieve that kind of number, but not dollar goals.
Okay, thank you.
Heidi, it's Rick. I got a question for you.
Okay, Rick, hi.
Hi. On one of your slides, you showed a graph. I think it showed that you started at about $1.2 million in fundraising and then grew to over 7 million. And going from like 1.5 full-time employees to over 5 or something like that. So the question is, along with instituting a development committee, the chicken or the egg, right? Was the growth in fundraising, can you link that to the development committee activities, or by hiring more full-time employees where you're able to touch more people, more donors, and have a better response? Or is it a little bit of both? Or do you have a sense of how you built the great success you have?
Thank you. First of all, I just want to clarify that those numbers are our total budget. That's not total raise. That's not total fundraising budget. So in that 1.2 million, we raised about 520,000. In the 7 million, we raised about 2.8, and then our endowment put off about 300,000. So I just want to make sure that you don't think we raised that much money, because I would love if we could do that. We're not quite there. I don't know if Jonathan's on the call. He may want to jump in, but I would say it's the staff. Primarily, I think we brought in some consultants when we opened this building in 2016, and they laid out a 5-year strategic plan for the organization. And the very top of their plan was you need a bigger development team, because really when it was just me, I mean, we had over 1,000 donors to our capital campaign. And many of them stopped giving because they were like, oh, I haven't heard from you in a year, because one person can't do that. And so, you know, now the team, I mean, there's me and then 3 development managers, and we have over 1,000 people in our portfolios who are getting very regular touches. I mean, Jonathan he'll laugh, because other than me always advocating for pickleball, I'm also always advocating for a big development team, because you just can't make money if you don't have people it takes the investment to make the money.
Yeah.
Which again, isn't to say that the committee hasn't been helpful. And certainly in that last iteration, when there wasn't a development team, they did play a bigger role in fundraising, but it really was more like the one-time capital gifts. They have never had a big role in the annual budget, which like I said, is pretty critical, since we have to raise about 50%. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Hire more people that's my answer.
Yes,
Hire.
Heidi, I echo everything you're saying. It's the most important piece of our success, for sure.
I love that you guys are saying that, because it is not that well understood by others. Let's try and be diplomatic here. And it's something that I've started to push on my team. There is me, and there is our event manager, and that's it. And I've been in this role for 11 years. So I'm hoping that can start to improve. But I love hearing what you have to say, and may well utilize that.
Well, and
moving forward.
Executive director wants to reach out to Jonathan. He's a good advocate for doing this. I just want to put in one other plug for a development team.
Yeah.
My entire team is made up of people who did not have a fundraising background, but they are very connected in the community. And that I cannot say enough good things about how well that has worked for us. In that they really get the relationship building piece, and they really get the connection piece. And the one time that we actually did hire someone who was a very had a ton of development experience and had a master's in whatever you get to be a good development person. You know, she upset a lot of our donors, because the first meeting with them, she'd be like, okay, so will you give us this much money? And that's just not,
right.
That's how we do it. We really believe that the relationships lead to the connection, and that leads to the philanthropy. And it's you know, I strongly believe I can teach my team how to use Salesforce and how to do a move. That's easy. I can't teach someone how to be a good connector. And so hiring people passionate about the JCC and care about what we do here and believe in the mission has just been such a great, it's really worked well for us.
It's all about the relationships at the end of the day, right?
We can continue the conversation in breakout rooms. We'll take one last question if anybody's got a burning question they want to ask Heidi in front of the group. Okay, then we will transition to breakout rooms. Okay, so we'll have about roughly 15 minutes, and I put the agenda in the chat. So just a quick reminder, if someone could just sort of make note of anything worth sharing with the group after the breakout sessions, please introduce yourself. Feel free to share something that you're excited about or something you're struggling with. Your favorite phone app, something that brings you joy if you want to share something with the group. And really, this is just about building some community and strengthening relationships among the development professionals here in the JCC network. Okay, so Edgar, turn it over to you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
That was great, Heidi.
Was that
As-
okay?
Yeah, it was really good. As a super prepared, and I love the way you can answer questions on the fly. As a co-host, you can jump in and out of rooms, so we can either put you in a room or you can just pick a room to go into.
You can just put me in a room.
Great.
Thanks.
Hi, Mary. You're muted.
I said, "Hey, Joy. Hello, Edgar. How's it going?"
Hello. Good.
Apologies, I joined the session a little bit late. So it sounds like everyone's been broken off into some smaller rooms.
Yeah, we'll move you into a room.
Yeah, let me just.
Sure. I'm flexible. Put me in wherever.
Okay. There you go.
Awesome.
Okay, and my
I have a new
timer.
person just joined, so let's
Okay.
move
Also with
her to.
Oh, and I gotta make sure that Rick and Seth are not in the same one. Let me.
Okay. Hi, Jen. Are you there?
No, they're not.
Well, we'll move Jen when she unmutes herself. Okay.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's 11:52 in California, so I think we'll try to wrap up in the next 5 minutes or so. Anybody have anything they want to share from their breakout room that they think this group needs to know?
Seth, I can give you some of the joys from our oys and joys. Luckily, we didn't really have any oys. It was mostly joys. I was with Molly and Debbie Golden and Rebecca from the JCCA office. And I have our big fundraiser, the J Classic, 2 weeks from today. And we've already beat our goal for sponsorship. So that was a joy. Molly has got at her camp, they're working on their 100th anniversary, and they're going to have a big gala next March. So that's going to be a big one for her. And Debbie's got her big fundraiser coming up in a couple of weeks also, and it's their 25th anniversary. So lots of good anniversaries and lots of good things to build around and fundraise around and get the community excited about. So it was all good news in my group. Who got next?
I'll weigh in on a joy. This is Adam from JCC Middlesex, and I was with Karen Goldberg and Bonnie Cox and Sydney. Where's Sydney? Sydney, you still with us? I hope
Cindy
Sydney's
Berman, she's waving.
Sydney's still with us. I didn't see. Oh,
Yeah.
there you are. Hi, Sydney. So Bonnie had a joy. Bonnie ended up getting what she thought was going to be a lost gift. Came back and committed to making good on the gift in a matter of a few months. So that's like that good golf shot that keeps you coming back for the next round. And we got cut off. We were having a wonderful discussion and got cut off right at the end, as we were saying to Sydney, who's in the process in Richmond of engaging in the beginning of a capital campaign. That we're all here for you, Sydney. So we didn't get to finish that comment, but I thought had a really nice exchange, and it's nice to hear when we get those uplifting moments from time to time. And we also talked about the ability, as difficult as it may be sometimes, to be able to balance patience and persistence at the same time. More often more art than science. But again, it's necessary with what we do.
Okay, well, the last thing we want to do is keep you late. So I will just wrap it up here. And I'll share from my group with Ariella, Miri, Jessica, and Julie, a few favorite phone apps. We had TripBucket, Sephora, and Google Photos, and then a minor dispute about the New York Times games. But I think we'll be okay. And All Trails was the last one. So I just want to thank everybody for being here, especially Heidi and Team Boulder, Jonathan. Thanks for joining us. And Heidi's putting some stuff in the chat about sharing. We're really happy to have you. Joy, do we have a date for the next one yet?
We don't yet next have a date, but it will be announced in an upcoming brief, and it's always posted on the JCC Resource Center. So that's a good way to find out about these things. And I'm sure you'll be getting emails from Seth and Rick as the summer progresses about what's coming up next. If you have ideas about topics that you want to cover, certainly reach out to them for those things. Somebody asked if these are being recorded. They're always recorded, and they are on the JCC Resource Center in every one of the peer community pages. So if you're interested in seeing something else, there's a volunteers peer community page. You can take a look at what they've been talking about, different things that may relate to the work that you do or to other people in your organization. So thanks again, echoing Seth and Rick, and the thank you to Heidi for a great presentation. And thanks again for behind the scenes, Edgar. And have a great rest of the week, everybody.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Guys.
See everyone.
Have a good
Joy, I just shared that document with you. I could not figure out how to get it. I'm clearly not. I need an Edgar here with me. I could